Hey guys, how you doing? In this video I'm going to show you how to make a custom winch mount for a 2001 Yamaha Bear Tracker ATV. I'm going to show you where we're going to mount the plate and where we're going to mount the winch. I'll show you the materials I'm going to use, and I'll also show you the hardware I'm going to use, along with the template that I found online at an ATV forum, which I will post a link to in the description of the video. So here we're looking at the template I found online at an ATV forum. I was able to enlarge it on a photocopy machine to get it close enough to the size I needed for the 01 Bear Tracker frame. And on the diagram you'll see that the measurements are all there for the plate, the cutouts, the holes for the U-bolts, and the holes to mount the winch to the plate. These will vary depending on the winch that you use, but the U-bolt holes and the size of the plate will fit a 2001 Yamaha Bear Tracker. So what we're looking at here is the mounting location for the plate that we're going to cut out later in the video. And this is a tubular frame on the 01 Bear Tracker. It's in a V shape, so it's wider at the top and it gets narrower at the bottom. And on a measurement here, you'll see that at the top portion of the frame where the plate would be, it's about an 8.5 inch width. You can decide to stick with that, or you can go a little wider, and that'll just give you a bigger overlap on each side, and it'll also make it comfortable for the U-bolts, so they're not stuck there on the plate and you're trying to fit them in. And on the bottom you're going to have about a 7.5 inch width for your plate. So that'll work out fine. If you want to go smaller, if you want to just go a little bit bigger, that's totally up to you. And on the front, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount a plate as well with a cutout for the receiver, and that's going to go across the front of the Bear Tracker. And I'm also going to use U-bolts as well, and that'll give the wire and the hook the ability to come through the front of the Bear Tracker. So the steel I'm using here for the project is a coated steel. It has a nice finish on it. It's like a gray finish. It's not like a raw steel. It's about 3/16 of an inch thick. It's just something that I was able to find, and once I saw it, I thought it'd be a great piece for the project. And once I got the template, I looked at it and it fit, it fit really well, onto the steel. So I took the template, and at first here we put it onto the top so that there's minimal cuts. You're really only going to have the 2 cuts on the side and the cut on the bottom, because you already have a nice sharp line on the top of the plate. So if you can find a plate like that, that's great. Also, you'll see here, like I showed you before, the U-bolt holes. You're going to mount the plate to the frame using U-bolts. So you're going to drill these holes out, and you're also going to drill out the holes for the winch to mount as well. These are the U-bolts I'm using, and you'll see the measurements are really close. If you center your U-bolt up, you'll see that you can just make an adjustment to one of the holes to center the U-bolt through, and then you can go ahead and drill your holes. So the hardware I'm using is stainless steel U-bolts. I decided to go with the stainless steel because of the exposure to the elements, and the zinc plated ones, they're okay. They will do just fine if you don't want to spend the extra money on the stainless steel. They just tend to corrode, and the stainless steel looks a little bit sharper. I didn't use all the hardware that comes with these, and I'll explain why later. But this package, available at your local hardware store. They're 1/4 inch U-bolts, stainless steel, and they'll do just fine for the job. So here's a look at the plate once I cut it out and drilled the holes for the U-bolts as well. You'll notice I also marked a center mark from left to right on the plate, and that's just giving me a center line for where I'm going to be able to put the winch, so it's balanced on the plate, so it's not really lopsided. So you'll see it's all cut out. I was able to clean up the sides. Any burrs or anything are all cleaned up, and I'll show you what it actually came out to once I cut it out. The measurement comes to about 9.5 on the top, so I did a little bit larger overlap on the frame, And also, like I said, I wanted the U-bolts to have room on each side. And then 7.5 at the bottom. And that's going to give me a nice overlap. So what we're going to do now is, using that center mark on the plate, we can go ahead and take the winch and put the winch on the plate, center it up, and we'll go ahead and drill the holes. We can mark them, take the winch off, drill your holes up, and then we can go ahead and mount the winch in a few minutes. So for the video, I used a 2,000-pound Badland winch. It's a Harbor Freight winch. It's their lowest model of their winch line. On this ATV, it's a 250cc ATV. The general purpose of this winch is really, in the event that I got stuck somewhere, not really to do any major pulling or anything. So what I did was, as you could see, I mounted the winch onto the plate there. Actually, I just laid it onto the plate to get an idea where it was centered. Using the 2 holes on the back of the winch, we're going to drill those out. So I'll mark those onto the plate first and drill those accordingly. And here's a look at the hardware kit once it was opened. It's you know, a lot of the stuff I'm not using. Like I said, I'm not using the nuts that came with it. I'm not using that cross plate. I'm going to go ahead and use the U-bolt only with stainless steel nylon nuts. So I didn't have to use lock washers or anything, but you can, you know, if you'd like. So once I drilled the holes for the winch itself, we can go ahead and mount it up using the hardware like I just explained. It's a 5/16 hex bolt, and I'm using a nylon nut instead of using a lock, you know, washer. I prefer the nylon nut. They're a little bit more secure and tighten up real nice. So what we'll do now is just fit up the winch onto the plate using the 5/16 bolt, and it looks fine. It fits fine. The holes I drilled were good, so everything looks good. We'll go ahead and try and fit it in there just to see if everything's fitting accordingly. Then we can go ahead and take the winch off, mount the plate up directly to the ATV, and then we can get a finished product. And I could show you how it looks finished along with the receiver plate in the front. So we'll go ahead and get started getting this all mounted up, and we'll fast forward a little bit. So here you're looking at the finished product mounted onto the 2001 Yamaha Bear Tracker. You'll see everything's wired up. We didn't cover much of the wiring in the video, but that you can follow along in your owner's manual of the winch. This was to show you how to get the plate cut out and the winch mounted. But here's the positive wire and the negative wire. And I'll also show you here, I mounted the solenoid just underneath the plate. It's a nice location on the Bear Tracker. It actually fit real nice in between the 2 bolts here. And I drilled 1/8 inch holes using some self-tapping screws to secure the solenoid. Now this location may not work out for everybody, especially if you're going to do some riding through water or do some mudding. But for my use, it's going to be just fine. It's going to be all dry. So you just might want to just relocate that solenoid if you think it might get wet. So here, just taking a look at the wiring, I used some wire loom and ran it up the back of the steering column there and up to the ignition wire. There's a hot lead you'll use. It's the red wire, and you'll tap into the switch, which is also a red wire, and that'll activate the winch when the key is on. Here's a look at the finished receiver plate in the front. A lot of that you'll see in the diagram. It's minimal cuts, just a cutout for the hook to come through the plate, and then the 4 holes on each side for the U-bolts to mount to the frame of the Bear Tracker. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you an insight on how to customize your own winch mount for your Bear Tracker. I'm going to leave you off with some still shots of the material I used. And if you have any comments, please feel free to post. Also, if you have any questions, you can do so as well. Hope you enjoyed the video, and safe riding.